So welcome back, and let's jump into learning about inner joins. So an inner join is used to return the matching rows from two or more tables. And there's really two main ingredients to an inner join. There's the tables that we want to look at and combine the rows from, and then there's what's called the join condition. And the join condition is really a description of how the rows are to be matched. So a simple example of a join condition would be, I want to bring in rows from the customer orders table and the products table where the product IDs from each table match. And we get combinations of those rows, and those are what are returned as the result. So a common pattern that we use when we're working with inner joins is to join two tables by their primary and foreign key. So if you recall, the primary key is the key that uniquely identifies each row in the table. Every table in a relational database, by definition, should have a primary key. The foreign key, on the other hand, is not unique, and usually what it is a value that's referring to a primary key in another table. So in the example I just gave with customer orders and products, if I'm sitting in the customer orders table and I have a column called product ID, most likely that's the foreign key because it's going to be pointing over to our products table, which probably has product ID as the primary key. All right, so rows that don't match with our join condition aren't included in the result. So the cool thing about an inner join is it's only going to show those relevant rows where you see a match, where the things are stitched together. And one thing that you'll find that's interesting is that, and it can be confounding at times, is that due to one-to-many relationships, that is where one value in a table could match many rows in another. For instance, a product could be ordered by many different people. It's definitely possible that the result will have more rows than either table combined. So think about that. So if I have a table of 10 rows and another table of 10 rows, and let's say that's all crisscrossed together, then I'm going to get a table of 100 rows. One handy tool that you'll look to use when you're working with joins is an entity relationship diagram. If you get your hands on one of these for your databases, it's going to save you tons of time in guessing. You can almost think of the entity relation diagram as a roadmap for you to figure out your joins. For instance, like in this case, how do I know what employees handled a customer order? Well, what I can do is I can find the employee table in my diagram and the customer order table, and then through inference I can figure out, okay, the employee ID of the employee table is related to the order taker ID on the customer order table. In fact, you can see there's actually even a little link to show that. So another question could be what is the product price for a specific customer order item? Well, if I find customer order item in my diagram, and then I can come down and look at the columns. Check it out. There's product ID. This one's really nice because they're name consistent. I have a product table and product ID. So you can see here product ID is the primary key, and it relates to the product ID foreign key in the customer order item table. So this one's a little tougher. This is kind of like saying I want to get from Chicago to Miami. Which interstate highways should I take? In this case, it's what customers ordered pizza. All right, so how do we get there? Do we have to go through Indianapolis from Chicago, or do we go through Cleveland? It's those kind of questions we got to figure out, but in a relational database perspective. So here I got to go, okay, I got a customer. Now, what do we do? Well, I have customers that order things, so I have a customer order. Well, how's it related? Well, customer ID, customer ID. All right, so now I can move down through this table. And orders are made up of many order items. So you can see here where I have a customer order ID. And if I come down, I have customer order ID, and there's many of them. And then finally, as we know from our prior example, I have a product ID. that relates to product. So in this way, I can construct a SQL statement that will join from customer to customer order to customer order item, and then the product by matching on the customer ID column and let's see, the customer order column, and then the product column. Product ID column. So lots of jumps, but it's definitely something we can do. So you must be wondering right now, how do I write an SQL statement? Let's go find out. So when I'm running an inner join, remember the joins are used to connect the rows from different tables via join clause. So you can see in this example here, we are going to write a join where we are going to connect the employee to the customer order by matching the employee ID with the customer order taker ID. And how we do this is we start out a simple select statement. In this case, I'm saying select the employee's first name, their last name, and then just to show how this all works, we're going to get the customer ID from the order. And I have a from clause. I'm saying, and I'm going to from the employee table. So what this will start doing is go through all the employees in the employee table, and then it's going to do this inner join, which means can you go over to this other table, customer order, and start to do some matching. And what I'd like you to match on is the employee ID equaling the customer order taker ID. Now you've noticed that I have put the table names in front of the fields or columns, and this is because there could be times where I have the same column in the two tables, and that would be somewhat ambiguous. And so by always putting the prefix of the table name in front, I can eliminate that ambiguity. So at this point, we'll do some examples, and what I'm going to do is, so that this video is short, is do the examples in the next lesson. So I'll see you there.